Greetings. This is Chipicon, and we are here tonight at Otherworldly, the Changing Times, Changing World show. And tonight we have Starwolf again, one of our favorite shaman, who is going to be talking about everyday carry. He did a wonderful, the last time we were there in person, he did an everyday carry. What has it got in its pockets? Useful things, and tonight it's it is everyday carry for healing, if I remembered that correctly.
Well, specifically,
since I'm the running it, I should. And here's Starwolf.
Okay, hello.
There we go.
Specifically, it is building a crystal healing everyday carry kit. Now, my personal opinion is you can never have too many crystals. So if you reach the point where if you fall into water over head deep and you end up not being able to surface, maybe you do have a few too many. But beyond that, what I have done is over the course of the summer, I put together this little box.
Okay.
Simply because it will fit quite conveniently into my pocket, or if you are a lady, it will fit quite conveniently into your purse. The box started out life as a sewing kit from Dollar Tree, one of the ones that they hang on the little dispense, the impulse buy rack by the checkout counter.
Okay.
I've been looking for something. I find Altoids tins, while very nice for people who want to put together pocket survival kits, because I wear them 24/7, they tend to rust and dent and otherwise damage the contents. So I thought we'd start out with the physical bit. Like I said, it is a small box, roughly 3.5 inches by about 3 inches, and a little over an inch thick. It's amazing what you can cram in one of these things. However, if you're willing to subscribe to my view that when it comes to dealing with crystals and healing, mass means nothing. Translation, you do not have to have the biggest crystal on the planet in order to accomplish your job.
Okay.
Given that I had little bitty Herkimer diamonds that put out more wattage than some of the crystal towers I've seen at the Smithsonian. So we are going to go through this, and as you can see, it is packed really, really tightly. So tightly, in fact, that I have an old hair tie helping to hold it together. And yes, it is padded on both sides, both top and bottom. A little bit of the closed cell foam I salvaged from work. But the idea was to try and maximize what I could have with me at any one time, in case somebody needed healing work. Now, there's also, in my divination kit, there is also a small bag of specifically chakra stones, so I did not include those. That was the original one. But let's see, let's start with what's on top. Right now we have a pair of, let's see, this is, unfortunately, my hands are very dry from work, so everything is slipping. We've got a piece of red azezulite, which is very good for infusing life force in when people are low energy. Also a very good root chakra stone. A piece of what they refer to as Sialoka clear azezulite. Some of this stuff, take it with a good-sized grain of salt. I get them from Heaven and Earth, and they are buggy about azezulites, which seem to be really highly energetic forms of quartz. However, because as you know, when it comes to minerals, I have the psychic sensitivity of a cinder block. It could or could not be. Let's see. We're just going to go through layer by layer. for helping to deal with both pain and regulate metabolic things, we have bloodstone. This was a nice one I found. Yep.
Old friend.
Yeah, for those of us who are diabetic, bloodstone is a real good friend. It helps regulate the blood sugar. Now, I also include some transformational stones. Let's see. This one is what they call Cinnabar. It's also known as Cinnabar Quartz.
Okay.
This is one of those stones you do not make a gemstone elixir from because it contains cinnabar, which contains mercury.
Mercury.
Which, it's been polished, so it's theoretically sealed, but it's got some holes in it because this is not a AAA quality. Indeed, I think I got it for free for ordering a bunch of stuff. So to make a gemstone elixir out of this, you would first have to put it in a sealed, transparent container.
Yes.
Drop the container in the jar that you were using, fill it with water or brandy or whatever else you were using. I just use tap water. And then seal it and leave it in the moon or the sun, depending on which you prefer. But like I said, this, like copper-based minerals and lead-based minerals, do not make elixirs from them. Okay, I'm just going down through the top. Let's see, we have a healing tool here. This is what is sometimes referred to as a dolphin crystal or a trigger crystal.
Okay.
You notice how it got a little one riding on one side? That kind of acts as not pointing it at the screen because I don't know what will happen. It acts as a trigger. When you press down, it initiates a small energy release. So it's useful for working on acupressure points or acupuncture points. I also find it's really good for putting up against people's sinuses when they've got sinus headaches and pop, and yes, it pops. Quite useful. Yeah, the advantage of having Yes?
I just said I'm going to get me one.
I'll look through the dollar crystal bins at a rock store. You'll probably find one.
Well, yeah.
These are not like generators or channeling crystals or record keepers. Oh, it's actually got a second crystal on the other side. Oh, how cute. There's actually a second one that has grown, a small flat one that has grown off next to one facet. I didn't even notice that when I was packing it away. Okay. Yeah, some of these are actually, consider them medications. Some of them are tools. For dealing with people who are having emotional issues, we have a small piece of rose quartz. That's one you can never hurt anybody with. Rose quartz is basically just nice and giggly. Well, and once again, for dealing with health and vitality issues, this one got a little polished, so it's an interesting one. This is a Shiva Legume. This is a microcrystalline quartz from India. They start up in the Himalayas. They get washed into I think it's the Ganges, and then by the time they fetch up down around Benares, once again, I would need to check a map. They have gone from rocks to they're usually egg-shaped. If you ever saw Indiana Jones, because they're associated with Shiva in his form as Shankar, who is my favorite avatar of Shiva or his aspect, because that's the spaced out shaman hanging out in the forest surrounded by trolls and goblins and dancing girls and blissed out on ganja. Yeah. Yes. He is everything that will make Vishnu's eyes cross.
Sounds like a Rastafarian.
Yeah, pretty much. He could pretty much be the Hindu deity of Rastas. So I understand they're a
Okay.
little laced when it comes to the orgiastic sex. Let's see. I believe I mentioned these last time. I've got 8 of these or 7 of these in my kit. These are beta quartzes from Russia. They are excellent little energy sources. I use them as opposed to colored chakra stones. Once again, not first grade, because you'll notice a lot of them have little impressions or depressions of the original rock out of them. But it's also how you can tell they weren't cut out of a bigger block of quartz, because they would be too perfect. But these are really high energy little monsters. And like Herkimer diamonds, they come out of the ground naturally polished. They do not need the acid bath that a lot of crystals need to remove the druze on the outside. And they are naturally double terminated. There's a bunch of those in here. I'm gonna have a lap full of rocks before the end of the evening. One of my favorite stones, once again, we have an Acne Mannite, which is very good for opening people's chakras and getting them up and moving. Also useful if they have somehow acquired implants, energetic or otherwise, from either, the Fae, aliens, must do it in the air quotes, or any other outside entity. They're very good for both protecting from them and helping to remove them. They kind of act as little energetic vacuum cleaners. If there's an actual physical implant, I'm not sure how well that would do, but I've never run into anybody who had a physical implant that wasn't put in by an MD. Now, here's another nice piece. If you've got people who are dealing with chronic pain, this is called Infinite. It used to be called Infinity Stone, but Marvel,
I guess they didn't like that.
Yeah. This is a form of serpentine, but it is very good for dealing with physical pain. This is my, it's hurting there. Here, we'll just duct tape this onto your knee for 5 or 10 minutes, shall we? Malachite also works, but malachite being a copper-based stone, there is the possibility if it's a hot day and the malachite hasn't been polished, it could leach copper into the body. Yeah, small amounts, but heavy metal poisoning is heavy metal poisoning. Let's see. Yes, for emotional pain, we have a couple of. Okay, no, this is a piece of not shungite, sugilite. Yes, I think it's either sugilite or charoite. I always mix the purple ones up. I really should put a what is in here list in this box, but that's the next thing. Maybe during the blizzard this weekend. And here's the one for dealing with emotional pain. We have a piece of lepidolite, which is an interesting form of quartz and mica. With it's one of the lithium-based minerals, so it is good for dealing with mental health problems. This lithium quartz and what they used to call gel lithium silica, which is getting really, really hard to find because it's also pretty. So it turned into one of, like tanzanite, it turned into the pretty rock of the moment. So the prices went through the roof. Okay. Another tool here. We have a small tangerine quartz laser point. Tangerine quartz is another one that's good for dealing with people who are depressed, people who are feeling really, really sad. I have the larger ones. Yeah, let's make sure these things don't end up on the floor. I seem to have a lot of tangerine quartz in here for some reason. Okay, what just flopped into? What just flopped down? Okay.
What's Tangerine Quartz for?
Tangerine quartz is what I sometimes refer to as the cosmic giggle factor. It is very good for dealing with depression, with mental trauma, and goodness knows we have enough of that going on.
Yeah.
And what is tangerine quartz? Is it just a color, or does it have special properties?
Well, its special property is that it helps deal with especially second chakra issues, which tend to be those involving survival and other things. It's an iron infused quartz, rather like amethyst is, but instead of going purple, it went orange. I've got 2 or 3 pieces. I'm trying to pull out a better version of it. Problem is, here we go. This is a nice one. It's a tangerine quartz laser point, a really good one. And this one is also one of those. Hi, I can apply it to the energy centers and press down and Kurzats.
You used it for acupressure?
Oh, acupressure, acupuncture. I don't really want to try to do acupuncture with a point that blunt.
No.
It would. Here, excuse me while I apply this to your third eye and all the way in. No, not really me.
Right, and then light some moxa and wrap it around the end. There you go.
No, I just chew up some mugwort and use that. We've got a bunch of moxie somewheres, but I think it's probably gone bad. And I have yet another scrubber crystal. Now these are really good for dealing. I've mentioned them before. For dealing with rough spots or dark spots in somebody's aura. You basically use it like a little crystal scrub brush. Or for that, if you're a little more carpentry oriented, it's a sanding block for the aura. Which would be interesting if you tried using. Huh?
Is that quartz? So does it matter?
Yes, it's amethyst. It's amethyst.
Amethyst.
This one is amethyst. You can also use plain clear quartz. If you could ever find a rose quartz one like that, that would work really well. And for that matter, I suppose if it actually is garnet, you could use garnet paper. But I wouldn't want to apply that physically to somebody for obvious reasons.
No, but you could use it to wrap something that you.
That's an interesting
like a
thought.
block. You could.
Yeah.
As a traditional shop thing, I do believe garnet is actually made from garnet that's too small to do anything else with.
In which case, it would probably be something you could use. Let's see, garnet is technically red. So that would work very well for base chakra, though there are green garnets, so I doubt if they'd use that to make garnet paper with.
Nope, never seen green garnet paper, always red.
Brace of paper prepared from crushed and ground garnets.
Okay, then
there you go.
Yeah, that would be useful, say, putting it under a pad with somebody is lying on under their root chakra.
There you go.
That would get it up and dancing.
Yeah, that's my primary root stone, always has been.
Yeah. We have yet another piece of tangerine quartz. This one is an odd little what they call receiver crystal. You can tell by the single large facet up at the top.
Oh yeah, okay.
That one twins with, yes, this is my metaphysical tricorder, as it were. Well, let's do it properly. This is what's known as a tabby or a scan. It's a kind of tabular crystal. It's called a scanner. I like this one because it fits very nicely into my hand. And well, I must admit, when I'm using it, I do tend to make the tricorder noises. But the idea is it allows me to pick up information on the patient's condition. I try not to use the term patient too often because it makes doctors nervous. The last
Clients,
thing I
yeah.
want is the American Magicians Association after my ass saying, "Oh, quack, 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 quack."
Mhm.
Mhm.
And let's see.
Call it your friend's condition.
Yeah.
Or the sufferer's condition.
Yes.
I usually say client. And
Client
once
Client is
again,
nice.
nice and
for
yeah, and that,
activating,
Okay,
for activating
what was the receiver crystal for?
what the receiver crystal for? Well, I needed to pick up. Basically, I find it when I'm holding it and I'm using the scanner, it's easier to actually get impressions.
Okay.
Oh,
I use
receiver
this as opposed to a
amplifier.
lot of the, as opposed to a lot of things here, which are to be used on the, as it were, the client. This one I use on me. It's the other half of a set, as it were.
Mhm.
Mm.
And it theoretically contains the records of people that I have worked on. It's also, interestingly enough, what they call a Lemurian seed crystal because it's got these long parallel facets going all the way up to the top with, if you look, I don't know if you can see them in the camera, you can see they have many, many striated lines
See that? Yeah.
up the
All right,
sides.
we're seeing some of that.
There's
Yeah.
a satiny look to
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Here's my other my big working tangerine. This one is actually a this is the other one I hold when I'm working. It is also a receiver, but if you look very, very closely, and you can't really in this, I don't know if you can see it here, you'll notice many, many little incised triangles on the big flat
I know
face
what they
there.
look like. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I see that.
This is a record keeper crystal.
Mhm.
Mm.
This is the one where this is basically the pickup for the scanner's output, as it were, for starting and recharging people's chakras. We have a piece of what they call Chevron Amethyst.
Mhm.
Oh
You
yes.
can see the nice little inside V shape there. That's how you can tell. What I didn't realize was I found the first piece of amethyst I ever owned, which came off of a 12 minerals
Mm.
thing that my parents bought me when we were on a trip, and it was also a Chevron Amethyst.
Mhm.
And I do have a small piece of what they call Lithium Quartz. Oh, come on, come out. I do love it when my skin is not smooth, my skin is slippery. This is Lithium Quartz here. Once again, you can see the vague purplish
Mm-hmm.
concentration there. This is also very good for dealing with depression and anxiety, just like basically a drinking a quart of water up in Saratoga,
Mm.
because that's what made the cure at Saratoga so good. The water's full of lithium up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
so it was working.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the Chevron, what was the Chevron Amethyst was
Chevron
about?
Amethyst, well, aside from just being generally energizing because it's amethyst and it's a really good purple upper chakra stone. No, sorry, third eye stone. It's very good for energizing chakras in general.
Okay.
And specifically the third eye and up to the crown chakra. Well, that's about everything in the kit. Like I said, this was designed specifically for me to have with me, based on the idea that if I have it, I'll never need it.
But
Yeah.
presumably
Yep.
pull them out sometimes.
Yeah, I pull them out and check them every now and again because it does rattle around in my pocket.
Yeah.
As long as if I've got my pants on, I've got this. The only time I will not be in my pocket is when we are flying down to Disney World, and then it will be in my check-through baggage because there's too much in
Mhm.
here that I would have a hard time explaining to TSA.
And their instruments might suffer a nervous breakdown from some of it.
Wait a minute, CSA,
Uh,
here that you had a bunch of rocks in a plastic box?
If they
remember,
if they don't understand
TSA
it
are-
right off, yes.
yeah, TSA is basically one notch above rent-a-cop, a mall cop.
You never know what they're going to decide about something, and so
Yes,
best just to avoid it.
And
exactly.
what
Pretty
they
mu-
don't
pretty much-
understand is probably illegal, and they understand very little.
So basically, everything that is normally my everyday carry is going into my check-through baggage,
Hmm.
and heaven help the airline if they lose it. But it will also, among other things, save me having to explain why I am carrying a crystal perba in my pocket. It's a very nice piece that I bought at a New Age fair many years ago. It is a Tibetan ritual knife entirely carved out of rock crystal.
There you go.
Mhm.
Bring on the Demon King.
Hmm.
But I really do not need to have to explain that to somebody who's,
It's above their pay grade.
Hmm.
right. Given that most of what I do is above their pay grade. We are going to look at the TSA pre-check, which I believe gets you around a lot of this. But we still have to, we're waiting for our, excuse me, brain just farted. We're waiting for our passports to arrive because it's just easier to do it that way. Okay, that
Yes.
besides a bunch more beta quartzes and one or two more little, here's another, is this the one laser point I showed you before? No, and another little laser point because they form excellent, as it were, they're good for operating, as it were.
Mm.
You put one in either hand and you can manipulate the energy centers reasonably well.
Like,
I've yet to create a pair. What?
like chopsticks.
Yeah, like chopsticks or like probes.
Hmm.
Ah,
Or
And this
knitting
is
needles.
once again,
Well,
I just have this image of somebody playing Operation now. With
it's not that far off if you think about what I
Yeah.
do.
exactly.
I'm playing a game of Operation with your energy body.
Mhm.
mhm.
And of course, the other piece of equipment that is indispensable, but I don't have it in the kit because it's in another pouch in my pocket, is of course to have a pendulum,
Mhm.
because that is the ultimate diagnostic tool for dealing with especially crystal energy healing.
Mhm.
It's the tool I use the most for determining, and the nice part is I don't even have to have the person lying down to use it. I can just, if I play 20 questions, I can make everything work.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. That is once again a tour of what I've got in its pockets. We still have about a half an hour.
Well, I have a question related to all the little widgets in your box there. Now, you started
Yes.
off by saying something perfectly reasonable, is you don't need a gigantic stone to do the work. But I
Yep.
did find myself wondering, out of all the stones in the box, are there any that you feel you had a need to get a better version of that stone, however you define that, to get the effect you wanted? Or is that really more a matter of you and you can work with any stone?
I'd say if I was going to upgrade anything in here, it would be the beta quartzes. I bought these for $1 each. If I could find better ones, I would use them.
Mm.
But they are, like I said, they are not the best beta quartzes. Oh, and one more little one for dealing with the root chakra. We have here a piece of Snowflake Obsidian.
Okay.
Obsidian is a wonderful material. It's a wonderful grounding stone, and because it is, oddly enough, it contains minute amounts of cristabolite. That's what the white stuff is.
Oh, okay.
It is quite useful if you're dealing with somebody. This is good for helping to break a fever.
Mm.
Either you put it on or under the person, or this is one you could safely make an elixir or just let it steep in a tea. in a cup of tea for a few minutes before you fed them the liquid.
Crystallite,
That's
huh?
what. Yes.
Yeah, I don't see too many stones that have that in it. It's not
Well,
going.
when I originally went hunting for a couple of pieces for a different project, I needed to put in, as it were, an energetic heat sink into somebody. I could not find actual free crystallite. Apparently, it's the only place you can find it is in Snowflake Obsidian.
Really?
Where it's stabilized by its environment, because it's not a fully stable version of quartz. And a journey to the
Exactly.
center of the earth is out of the question.
Exactly. Well, it's not necessarily out of the question. I mean, I am something of a Vernian, so, but that would require a trip to Iceland, and it's the wrong time of year.
Yeah, that I'd vote for that.
Because you have to be upon Snæfellsjökull upon the calend of July, just as the sun is rising, which will show you the route to the center of the earth, according to the writings of Arnold Saknussemm, who may or may not have ever existed.
Yeah,
Right.
and Iceland is pretty much where, yeah.
And the concept of climbing down the throat of a semi-active volcano, I ain't that crazy. Though I must admit, I would love to travel to the big island of Hawaii and sift through some of the drifts of volcanic ash that have come out of the recent eruptions, because they're full of peridot crystals.
Really?
Really?
The little green crystals, peridots,
Yeah.
Peridot.
they come out of lava.
Peridot, yeah.
Peridot, also known as olivine.
Oh, olivine. Yeah.
Yeah, they're also known as peridot. If you polish them, they're peridot. Though if you just have big chunks of them,
Okay.
they're olivine.
You're confusing me with your pronunciation, because peridot is the, you're adding an extra O sound.
Yeah, well, I'm a New Englander. What do you expect?
Okay.
I mispronounce
Yeah.
everything except English. Because
I'm very conscious about peridot because it's my birthstone.
okay, well, it's the same. It's that one, but
Okay.
apparently most of the sources are old volcanic ash beds,
Interesting.
because it's literally right now is it Mauna Loa or Mauna? It's one of the ones on the Big Island. Every time it sends out a lava plume, that's part of what's coming down in and amongst the ash. So go through with a sifter and just break up hundreds of them.
Kilauea. Okay.
Assuming they'll let you into the area that is currently active. That probably
tacky
won't
details.
happen. Yeah, tacky details like not wanting to see you incinerated,
Well, yeah, and you'd certainly want to make an offering to Pele before you go wandering around the neighborhood.
I would suggest that,
So-
Yeah, but I know specifically what I would probably be throwing into it, what I do for most goddesses, and that would be a bottle of chocolate Baileys.
Couldn't hurt.
I'm seeing some pictures of the peridots they're getting out of there, and they're rather nice looking.
Yeah, so some of them are actually, they aren't the microscopic little ones you tend to find. Some of them are pretty damn big.
Yeah.
Well, that's impressive
Now-
for an ash flow, although ash can be pretty large, but to see good sized ones, that's neat.
Yeah. But
Starwolf,
yes.
I know that you are all about the crystals. I will say you also carry, aside from the pendulum, you're also carrying apparently duct tape to put it on.
There's duct tape in a couple of things. I always carry a flat pack of duct tape in my wallet for emergencies, because I am a Scadian and something of a prepper, and duct tape is the force that holds the universe together.
All right.
And DW or not.
Yes. It has a dark side and a light side. Mine is black duct tape, so it's white on one side and black on the other. So of course it will. But it's also useful for other things. You ripped your pants. Somebody's ripped their skin. put a rip in themselves and you don't happen to have a Band-Aid handy.
Well, that would be where, I will share for a second some of my everyday, what I keep in my purse. And one of those things is super glue.
Yep, there's
Yes.
one of those in my first aid kit.
Which is
Or-
there to hold things together. The two other things that I always seem to have on me, box rescue remedy, which is good anytime.
I've got the little gummy. I've got the rescue gummies. It's just
Oh, you got the gummies. Okay, that works. My
bottles
And-
of liquid don't necessarily work that well.
and well, that's why I like the super glue that's in a tiny tube that you have to kind of use it up. Then you get one use out of it.
Yes.
And arnica. This is one of those don't leave home without it. So that when I walk into a toe ball or a table or
Yes.
whatever, I don't end up bruising. And
In my homeopathic first aid kit, which is another thing in and of itself, there I tend to carry in the first aid kit, I tend to carry the purple dilutions, the 1000 level, the hit you with a hammer ones. But the emergency ones are arnica, hypernicum, apis, and rustox. That'll handle most bumps, bruises, and allergic problems.
What was
Apis
that?
being
arnica, hyperium, apis, and what?
poison ivy, rustox.
Oh, rustox.
Yes, that's. I have a bunch of others in the kit, but those are the 4 carried at the highest dilution commercially available. Those are the purple tubes that not every place carries. I only know one place that carries the green ones, and
Well, Starwolf,
course,
we talked
Bio-
about duct
Bioron
tape.
because
Well,
um,
I once made a specific duct tape request for magical and spiritual purposes.
Mhm.
Jen made me this. It's a
Oh,
box to hold some of my magical stuff in.
Yep.
And you can see it wasn't very far away.
now as far as containers go, because in many ways, a kit is only as good as the container it's in. You saw what I used. You'll also notice I don't know whether you spotted or not, I padded the interior so that things won't rattle quite as much.
Yes.
That's just the one advantage of working in a warehouse. I have infinite access to bits of scrap packing material.
Oh, good.
This is just more recycled closed cell foam from the scrap bin, because we wrap certain things in and they always have bits that no longer work. So I pull out my scissors, I grab myself a couple of square feet, and they don't care. It's something they don't have to pay to have hauled away. One of the reasons a lot of my quartz crystals are tangerine ones is so that they will be dual purpose, both healing and tools.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, because I've got a limited amount, I mean, I could create a crystal healing kit that would basically require a transit van to carry, and would look like it would look like a self-propelled rock store. But
Hmm.
that would be, at one point I had this vision of one portion of what I refer to as my portion of the basement I call the lab, having a set of those industrial bins, the ones that they keep small parts in machine shops.
Yeah.
Full of crystals.
Mm.
Yeah, instead
But
of
that
nuts
was-
and bolts and screws, you just have a big wall of these little bins, and they're all full of crystals.
They're full of what I need. Okay, I need one of these and one of these and one of these to work on them.
Mhm.
The need has never materialized, unfortunately.
Mm.
So, like I said, that covers just about everything. I need to dig through my supplies downstairs and find a small piece of moldavite to put in here as well, because I'm very big on, as you know, on moldavite, because I love the stuff. It being one of the few stones I can actually feel.
Okay.
And one of the things I promised myself after we get back from Disney is a piece of Trinityite, which I am not going to be using for crystal healing.
Right.
Trinityite is a form of glass created in Alamogordo, New Mexico in 1945. It looks vaguely, the good stuff looks vaguely like moldavite because it's also got that same clear bottle green look. Unfortunately, the really good stuff will be radioactive for at least the next 10,000 years.
Right.
But I can find small samples that are at least safe enough to handle in their plastic containers, so that hopefully not so much in 2022, but in 2023, I will be able to add that to my meteorites and tektites class. It's like, this is not moldavite.
Yeah, don't make that mistake.
Speaking of that, given that China is now cranking out large quantities of what they refer to as artificial green obsidian, it's getting harder and harder to, unless you know your source on certain stones, assume if it's a really inexpensive big chunk of moldavite, it's probably glass.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like the green stuff they're producing. I was giving it to my more Game of Thrones addicted friends as, here, have a piece of dragon glass. And the looks on their faces when it's like, you just gave me, it's artificial green obsidian, don't worry about it. But I've got some of those.
It might be worth studying a lot of the photos that are being put up for inexpensive moldavite now, because they're using the same molds, and you can start to identify the molds and know that it's fake.
Yeah, well, given that I have about all the moldavite will probably ever be able to afford, unless I can come up with the money for the chunk Mary Alice has. And that piece is from heaven and earth and is certified actual moldavite.
Yeah.
From the Czech Republic. So that would give me another big piece. I'm also
Bill
wearing
and I were fortunate to have gotten ours about 25 years ago, so we're pretty sure it's real.
Yeah.
It was nice to have some more pieces, though.
Yeah, well, I would suggest go to Heaven and Earth if you're looking for moldavite, because their stuff is reputable.
Yeah.
It's in Vermont. The people who run it are now living in New Zealand, but it's in Vermont.
Yeah. Yeah, we're aware of them.
Other pieces of, excuse me, let me just check the time. Okay, we got plenty of time. Other useful pieces in your kit, if you are dealing with heavy duty amounts of negative energy, amber and jet, another one of my go-tos. Combined together, they form an energy transformer that will take negative energy, transform it into positive energy, and feed it. If you're wearing it, it'll feed it back into you. So the harder they hit you, the stronger you get. I love being able, as it were, to do energetic aikido to people. It's like, yeah, go ahead, hit me again.
I'm rubber and you're glue.
Yep. Yes, the armor that I have downstairs that I should probably bring to a Heaven and Earth just to show it off, or as I refer to it, Atlantean Battle Armor Mark I Light. Basically, the leather bits are entirely underlaid with huge amounts of crystals, forming energy generators, conduits, shield groups. It's basically the metaphysical version of power armor.
Nice.
Right down to a helmet that allows me to see auras, and theoretically it's got a communication system, but I've never been able to find anybody else who can sync with it other than me. That's the problem when you're using technology that became extinct before the Bronze Age happened. So, like I said, questions, comments, snide remarks?
No, I think you covered the questions I had. Really interesting to
Yep.
see. Because I was, there's always this, all right, do you want a great honking stone, or do you want a perfect stone, or, what do you look for? And obviously it varies from stone to stone.
Yeah,
But
well,
it was,
part of it is, what are you using it for?
mhm.
I've seen some big smoky quartzes that I would love to have in the house because they would soak up all the negative energy that ever came in and
Mm.
dispose of it. The one I really want is literally 3 feet tall
Mm,
Oh,
and weighs about 250 pounds.
yeah.
and costs an amount equivalent to the GDP of a small country. Now,
No,
maybe
but when last I checked it, it would have been several house payments.
Hmm.
oof.
I've got
Okay,
a-
I dig that.
That's my basic unit of value. If it costs more than a house payment, I probably don't need it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
If
Yeah.
it means not getting a couple of iced mochas for the week, it's probably affordable.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you.
Yep.
You said that you are head blind to stones. How can you work with stones and crystals if you can't feel them?
That's what the pendulum's for. Pendulums work real good with me.
Mm.
But as far as it goes, a lot of it has been handing Kathy things and saying, "Hi, check this out for me." Which also happens when I make things. She's my quality control.
I like that.
I've become more sensitive over the years, but I'm still it still takes a lot to get me. For example, the East Coast Gem and Mineral Show,
Mm.
even I have to go out and, as it were, decompress for a bit before jumping back in. The time I had a pound bag of scepter crystals, which for those of you who have never heard of them, those are quartz crystals that have had a second one grow on top of it. So it looks vaguely either phallic or like a king's scepter.
Mm.
I had managed to store a pound bag of those at Gem and Mineral, and I put them into the pack pocket of the vest I was wearing, where it was resting against the base of my spine.
Mm.
And then I looked down at myself walking around the Gem and Mineral Show. That was a really interesting experience.
Oh.
I took them back. I got back into my body, took them back to the car, and when I got back in, I had a large hot cocoa from the Dunkin' Donuts because I needed to ground.
Mm.
Oh boy, did I need to ground. And who is this? Who is this gorgeous boy or girl?
This
Girl.
is a girl. Her name is Calligraphy. We call her Callie.
Hi.
Well, the litter she was born to were all named after things to do with writing.
Okay.
And
But
yeah. But
She's the hyperactive child cat.
she's the younger one of the familiars in the house.
okay.
Well, and I will throw it out to the whole group. That shall we? Does anybody else have what is, as I did? What do you carry? What do you not leave home without it? I include pendulum in mine, but
I
I actually have about three pendulums that I carry on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me,
Hey.
I don't work with this stuff as a medium often enough to carry everything every day. Although I do have specific days where I'll be getting ready to go out of the house and suddenly my my amber will decide I need to wear it that day.
Mm-hmm.
But
I have an I have an amber and jet bead necklace that I made that is basically, oh, there it is. Amber and jet together.
Mm,
I don't know if you can see it. I wear it all the time.
okay.
It's
I've
perhaps one of the
taken
reasons.
to, I have a whole pile of stone necklaces of one kind or another, and I've taken to interviewing them in the
Yep.
morning, using them like a pendulum to say if they want to be worn that day or not.
Well, certain of this stuff is everyday carry, so I don't take it off except to bathe. The
I don't sleep comfortably with them.
well, I ain't no princess, so I manage. But I also I'm somewhat flatter chested, so a lot of this stuff just tucks between my shirt,
Yeah,
my shirt and my chest.
Mine get caught
Exactly.
between boobs and
Oh.
body.
Crap. Oh, goody, my box just dumped.
Oh dear.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Oh, well.
I'm not going to move until we're ready to undo things. So so hopefully I can find all of them.
We got 8 minutes to go. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yep,
anybody else? What do you carry? What does everybody else always carry with them?
Well, since I haven't gone out in 2 years,
Well, that's true.
I haven't decided what to make sure I carry all the time with me.
A mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we
Well,
don't
yeah.
even get to use that. So
Starwolf, if what would you put in a mask to make it work better?
Okay. Let's see. We're talking basically an antiviral. Oddly enough, even though I'm rather against wearing copper, I would probably on the outside, I would decorate it with probably malachite, maybe some
Copper
raw copper beads.
Hmm.
Now, copper is very good as an antibacterial, antiviral.
okay.
So, or you could, that would be one. I don't get into the metals much because they tend to be expensive. Either that or they're so ubiquitous that that you don't really need to have them with you.
Mm.
Though I must admit, in my field vest, there is a vial of iron cut nails.
Mm.
Or
Right.
that's part of the hi, you're not getting through this doorway, are you? And a
Mhm.
couple of small vials of finely powdered iron.
Mm-hmm.
All
Think
right.
of it as otherworldly pepper spray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've described the effect of poofing a tube of that into a room full of unpleasant creatures. And
Yeah, and kind of and while I am, when it comes to sensing things, yes, but I can often smell things. And the best way to describe it is the odor of overcooked barbecue.
Mm.
yeah, I
Say
can believe that.
you left a rack of ribs on the grill too long.
Yeah.
That's the odor you get when you have done the and let the
Okay.
cloud of powdered iron drift through the room for a few seconds.
Okay.
Is it where it's the energetic equivalent of smelling overcooked ribs?
But it's interesting, the idea of actually attaching, because we're just starting to switch over now to KN95s from the standard 3-ply surgical masks we've been using. And of course, the mask, the primary purpose is to keep you from giving it to someone else. But it also helps if it prevents the maskless idiot next to you from giving it to you. And
Yeah.
with Omicron apparently being, this is going to be everybody's COVID. And
yeah,
so I'm trying to think, because obviously, well, first of all, there are enough weird looking masks out there. You could attach something to it and not care what it looks like. But
I have a lot of friends who have, especially my female ones, who have decorated their masks.
Yeah.
Indeed, we're now shopping for fancy masks for wearing to Disney.
I'm sure you can
There
find
you
some
go.
awesome ones.
Well, they're
Yeah, we will. We will
It's
eventually.
it's an industry. They're out there.
Yep.
I mean, we're I
So that
really,
about
it's like,
covers me for the night.
Well, I've got one thing from the chat that says hematite ring to ground.
Yeah,
so
assuming it
that's an
doesn't shatter
everyday
on you.
pair.
Yeah, that's an everyday. My main problem with wearing stone rings is I tend to break them.
Yeah,
I
and
have this-
hematite is a brittle one.
Me too.
Especially, yeah,
Oh, there you go.
if you're going to wear hematite rings, buy a bulk bag. You're going to go through them a
There
lot.
you go.
Mhm.
It doesn't take much than a stand, just
Oh, look at Lois here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, look at Lois there. Normally, what I would do is well, the few times I've worn it, I made myself an anklet big enough to go around my leg. And I would wear it down there where it was reasonably
Mhm.
safe from harm. I don't wear
Yeah.
rings.
Yep.
And then
That's
of
my
course,
hematite.
we got strands that we can wear as necklace. And I've used hematite as a component in other multi-purpose necklaces I've made.
yeah. Hematite chip necklaces are amazingly useful for that.
Yep.
And like I said, I used to wear stone rings on pretty much every hand, and pretty much they all shattered at one point
Yeah.
or another, including I managed to find a blue quartz
Oh,
one. I still have half of it.
yeah. I would be more inclined
Well-
to put the rings on a necklace cord and wear them
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Because you talk about being totally unable to feel stones and all of that. And I suddenly wonder if hematite in particular, you just have a bad relationship in that sense, because maybe it grounds you, but you don't seem to get along too well when you get too close, at least on your hands. And I don't know if the hand thing is special either.
I've never really made a study, but I understand there are a bunch of minor chakras in the hands, so it might be you're blocking the wrong
Oh,
one.
there's definitely one. When I
okay.
warm up for Reiki, it's always where you're taking your hands. And I don't know if there are any down the fingers, but there's definitely a palm chakra in each hand. And certainly for energy healing, for people who work on my wavelength, it's really important that those be open, because that's where the energy that you're receiving will flow.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, some people might not know about this, but a lot of hematite these days is actually hemolike, which is
Yeah.
a brand name for artificial hematite. But
Oh, like
I've
the
always
stuff,
understood
like
it
the
to
stuff
be
they make
basically
those,
Hmm?
like the stuff they make those weird little. You see them? They're two kind of egg-shaped hematites that people were clacking together and making buzz and spin, and
that sort
would
of
make
Oh,
me
thing,
yeah.
jump out of my skin because it sounded way too much like a rattlesnake.
And they also make some incredibly shaped beads and things like that. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
as I've understood it, it is basically functionally the same.
I
For our
think even
purposes.
Melody said that the compounded version, while it ends up being a very microcrystalline version, still functions the same way.
Yeah, I thought it was
And
worth
essentially
bringing up
what's
for those people who might not be familiar with that.
Main problem I found with that stuff is it tends to be somewhat more fragile
It is, yes.
than, which kind of explains why a lot of it tends to go boom.
Well, that's why I figure that's a feature, not a flaw. Not a flaw, because I hate that sound. The
Yeah,
parents
like I
kill their
said.
children.
Yeah, it does remind me, as I said, way too much like a rattlesnake.
I've never tried one of those toys. I've never
I'm
seen.
going to,
But- And
since we're getting
and there
to
is
the
one
end.
other thing to say, that if your hematite suddenly shatters for no reason, it may have actually acted like a sacrifice fuse in a circuit.
My thought
Where
would be
it-
that exactly, that it had spent itself in the process of doing what it was doing.
I've had a few pieces of hematite do that when I found out, oh, somebody was doing something nasty, and that's why it went pop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are finishing up, and before we go, I'm going to remind everybody, next week we have Han Milo Duquette
Is that
who
noise?
is going to be who's
I
gonna
don't
be-
know some.
he will be talking about everyday oracles and that
Awesome.
divination and anything else I suppose we can pester him about. He's got like 20 books or something, and he's just a fascinating character.
I
Yeah.
always have it right
Sounds
here. So.
It's a great book. I've given away like 5 copies because it's such a useful book. And so I thought I would mention that before I said goodbye. But we have to thank Starwolf for sharing more of his
And
mastery of
I'll
these
probably be back in a couple of weeks with something else.
little rocks and what they do.
It's been known to happen.
Oh, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
And